I'm Elizabeth from ElizabethFinchWellness.com. I'm a health coach and a meal prep coach, and I'm also self-taught in the kitchen, and I love to make healthy recipes at home. So I know we're all kind of stuck at home right now. I know that we're all kind of snacky, maybe stress eating a little bit, which is probably totally normal with the situation that we're in, all being at home more than usual. So I've got a recipe for a healthy snack that I think most of you guys will be able to make with ingredients that you have on hand. So if you get tired of the junk food, and I think you eventually will, or you'll get tired of the way it makes you feel, then hopefully you've got some of the ingredients that you can throw together for these peanut butter energy bites, peanut butter chocolate energy bites actually. So I'm gonna use a food processor today. If you don't have the exact same ingredients that I'm using today, you can always substitute or even leave them out. And I'll kind of share, how you can do that as we go through the ingredients. So you can use a food processor or like a blender or anything else that you want to use. If you don't have something like that and you don't mind them being a little bit chunky, you could even try mixing it together with your hands. But you really cannot mess these up. They're super easy and they're really delicious. All right, here we go. So we're gonna start with 1/4 a cup of ground flaxseed. So if you've got ground flaxseed on hand, great. If you don't have that and you've got chia seeds, use those. If you've got sunflower seeds or some other kind of a seed, use that, 1/4 a cup of that. The reason that I like to add flaxseed or chia seed or some kind of other seed is because seeds are really high in fiber. So that's just going to increase the fiber content in these peanut butter chocolate energy bites, okay? So 1/4 a cup of that. Then we're gonna use 1/4 cup of peanut butter. So I've got creamy peanut butter here, but again, just use what you've got. You cannot mess these up. If you don't do peanuts, maybe someone in your house has a peanut allergy, feel free to use almond butter or sunflower butter or anything else that you've got on hand. Any other nut butter will work just fine. And we're gonna use 1/2 cup of rolled oats. So mine are just plain rolled oats. Again, use what you've got. So if all you've got is instant oats, do that. All right, we're gonna add a teaspoon of vanilla extract. Again, if you don't have it, leave it out, it's totally fine. And then I'm going to add a tablespoon. I've got cacao powder here. So if you don't have cacao powder, but you have cocoa powder, unsweetened cocoa powder, use that. We're just kind of winging it here, right? Most of us haven't been to the store a whole lot or maybe aren't planning to go a lot. So I'm gonna add a tablespoon of the cacao powder to my mixture. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add another, let's say probably 2 tablespoons of the cacao powder just here in a bowl. And I'm gonna just set that to the side because I'm gonna use that to roll my bites in. And then the last ingredient is 2 tablespoons of honey. Again, if you don't have, let me grab a different honey. This one's not really working for me. All right, this one's a little bit more liquefied. If you don't have honey on hand, but you have maple syrup, use that. If you don't have that on hand, you could even use like chopped dates. I'm trying to avoid processed sugars here. That's why I'm using honey or maple syrup, but either one of those should work just fine. And if you want it a little bit sweeter, you could always use more. I find this to be plenty sweet, and I actually do have a sweet tooth, so 2 tablespoons is usually enough for me, but if you want, you can use more or less. It's totally up to you. So now we're just gonna put the lid on the food processor, and we're gonna blend them up until everything starts to come together. And then sometimes you have to scrape down the sides of the food processor just to make sure it's all coming together. And it's probably gonna be just a little bit dry, maybe kind of crumbly, but we're gonna fix that in just a second. I'm gonna process it again. Okay, so it is just a little bit dry, not super dry, but let's see if I can show you guys the texture here. I don't know that it's gonna come together just real well, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna add a little bit of warm water, but you don't wanna start with too much. So I've got not quite a tablespoon. Actually, I'm gonna pour just a tiny bit of that out and start with 1/2 tablespoon. I'm gonna put that in, process it again. Scrape down the sides of the bowl. Let's see what this consistency is like. You want them to stay together because we're gonna roll them into balls and we wanna make sure they stay. So this is pretty good. I think just 1/2 tablespoon worked pretty well. And now I like like to put these on a piece of parchment paper on, like this is just a baking sheet. You could even use a plate or something like that. So I just like to line it with the parchment paper so that nothing sticks, because we're gonna pop them in either the refrigerator or the freezer, depending on how quickly you want them to get done. I'm probably gonna pop these in the fridge for about 20 minutes. So what we're gonna do is roll these into about 10 little balls. And you'll just use your hands to press everything together so that they're kind of nice and compact in these little snack balls. Now, if your mixture starts to stick to your hands too much while you're rolling these into balls, then just stop and rinse your hands off with some warm water, maybe a little bit of soap, and you can get started again. So my batch is gonna make not quite 10. It looks like I've got about 9 balls here. All right, so now what you're gonna do after you've got all the balls rolled into little similar size pieces or balls, then you wanna take them and dip them in the cacao powder if you're gonna use that, just to kind of coat them. You don't have to use the cacao powder or cocoa powder, whichever one you're using. If you wanted to, you could even use, like, if you had cacao nibs on hand, or even like shredded coconut, or if you wanted to use like even chopped up peanuts or some other kind of nut or seed. So see, I'm just covering my little rolled up balls in this cacao powder or cocoa powder, whichever one you're using, which is just gonna give it a little bit more chocolate. And I think you can't ever have too much. So again, I know we're all super snacky right now, but I know we're all still very concerned about our health and well-being, and there's lots of nourishment in these little energy bites. So peanut butter has fiber and protein and also some good fats. So does the flaxseed, and I shared with you that flaxseed also has a really good amount of fiber, which is good for our heart, good for our digestive tract, good to help keep us full and feeling satiated between meals, so maybe we don't feel as snacky. The oats also have a lot of fiber, good healthy carbohydrates in that. And then cacao or chocolate, dark chocolate, is a superfood, and you will never convince me otherwise. It's got a lot of antioxidants in it. Okay, so I've got my balls, my little energy balls are covered in the cacao powder. And to be honest with you, it actually only took me about a tablespoon of cacao powder, so hopefully you won't waste anything. We don't want to waste anything, of course, right now. I'm going to pour this back into the package that I took it out of the cacao package. And again, I'm going to pop these into my refrigerator for about maybe 30 minutes. Just let them set up, and then they'll keep covered in the refrigerator for about probably a week or so. I'd say maybe 5 or 6 days, and we'll just grab them and grab one for an afternoon snack. And again, because of all the good fats and the good healthy carbohydrates and fiber and the protein from the peanut butter and the flaxseed, these are going to help to stabilize blood sugar, keep you full from one meal or snack to the next, so that we don't feel quite as hungry and snacky as maybe we've been feeling. So I hope you enjoy this recipe. If there's anything else you want to see, you guys let me know. Bye.